Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and happy Easter again. I hope you had an amazing Easter weekend. I know we both had our own weekends. I know Josh's birthday was this past weekend. He is now 42, if you didn't know. Which we'll talk about that. We'll ask him about that here in a sec. But hope you guys did have a great weekend. There's a lot of basketball, baseball, a lot of things happening, a lot of news happening this weekend, which we're going to cover a lot of in today's episode. But Josh, how was the birthday weekend, my guy?
For anyone that thinks Ben's telling the truth 100% of the time, I'm actually 30 now, but I might as well be 42 because everything seems to start going bad once you turn 30, they say. And at least in my
I'm
very,
not too far behind you, by the way. I'm
I
only a
was
couple
gonna
months
say, yeah,
behind
you
you.
should be there pretty soon. And
Yeah.
in my brief stint into year 31 now, it is 5 days in, I am still feeling pretty healthy. All my bones seem to be intact. All my organs still seem to be functioning the way they should be.
Colonoscopy 9 years away.
Yeah, yeah, that could be coming up, and I might just say, you know what, we'll just skip that and let anything that's building up in there just, run its course. Scary thought. My fiance Taylor surprised me. She got a bunch of my friends together, and we had a nice, fun little surprise birthday party at Chet and Matt's. It's a really good pizza spot up here.
There you
And we
go.
watched the Final Four. Had a good time watching UConn, Illinois, and then the Michigan Arizona game is just like I couldn't believe how overmatched Arizona was in that game. But we'll get into all those later in our discussion, which will mainly center around the national championship.
Hmm.
But yeah, Easter with the family was great. Great church service. The reminder that He is risen,
Hmm.
indeed, and that yeah, just spending some extra time with the brothers and stuff was good. Is there anything different in Hungary, Ben,
Yeah.
around the Easter celebration that maybe
Well,
people in the United States don't
yeah.
typically do?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, they also count Monday, so Monday is always off. It's always a holiday as well. So it's kind of like a 4 day weekend, Friday through Monday, which is nice for a lot of people. I already had spring break this week, so it's kind of nice. It kind of goes into spring break, but nothing too crazy. I mean, we did Good Friday service at our church, and then obviously Sunday we did service as well. But I kind of had so there's not anything really crazy different. I'd say it's pretty similar. But I will say for me, what was different this weekend is that I got to witness a great Easter gift of getting to help coach a team in the national U19 national team here in Hungary for American football. And our gift for Easter weekend was getting our butts whooped 79-6 by the German U19 national team. They had one guy run for like 6 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure they had more yards than us by like probably about 200. The first play of my special teams, I'm special teams coordinator for the national team, was a snap that the punter obviously did not see. And instead of falling on it, he lets it bounce all the way into the end zone and then falls on it because that's what we do when
Hmm.
we were doing it. So that was a very interesting moment in time. But then it even got weirder is that I was going to practice tonight. I just got back from practice not too long ago. But it took me an hour and a half to go to practice. You know why, Josh? You want to guess why it took me an hour and a half to practice, Josh?
It wasn't traffic, was it?
It was traffic. And you know why there was traffic, Josh?
Oh, uh,
Because because how dare a country decide to meddle in other countries' businesses? And Vice President Vance is in Hungary right now. Um, so they
hmm.
pretty much like the whole city is like shut down basically in a sense. And Yeah, he's here to support the prime minister here in Hungary to hopefully get reelected this Sunday. So yeah, I got to miss my special teams part of practice, Josh, because how dare I have to deal with an American
Hmm.
politician in Hungary? Who would have thought it would have carried all the way over here? Thoughts on
Yeah.
that, Josh?
Well, I think given that you've probably been more close to JD Vance than I have recently, and JD
Yeah,
Vance is from Ohio, so
I know. It's wild.
yeah.
Shocking how this all goes.
It is. You could also maybe spin that to, mean a lot of things that Americans, would love our politicians to care a little bit more about happenings in our own country instead of,
Would be nice.
always, caring about the happenings of everything happening across the ocean instead. But, we'll save that discussion for, the baseline politics podcast that
No one wants to hear that.
might
No
be
one would ever want to listen to that.
maybe it'll come 2028. I
I
don't
think
know
that's
for
a I
specifically
think that's a
election season.
I think that's like a Dave Bowden and your dad. I think that's their podcast would be their podcast. I feel
Maybe
like. I
the
feel like
baseline politics.
the dad's edition.
Yeah.
But no, do have a lot to talk about. But yeah, I think you have a very good point of where you want to start, and I think it's a very obvious place to start for this talk.
Yeah. Uh, so national championship game was Michigan over UConn,
Ugh.
which I
Oh.
predicted on the podcast last weekend. I won't, try to rub that too much into Ben's face. I know his thing is being right more often than me, and
Hey,
I'll take my
I'm one of the
small
only
little
ones that
moral
had
victory.
UConn all the way in the national championship game, by the way. I was one of the very few that had UConn in the national championship game. And yes, I did pick them to win. And yes, I had Michigan losing in like the Elite Eight. But you know what? It's because bias does happen, okay? Bias does happen.
Bias can happen, but I will take my, humble little victory lap here. I picked Michigan to win it all. I did have UConn in the Final Four. I should have just, been brave enough to pick them to beat Florida, the third time around that they faced or whatever it was, but couldn't do it. Uh, thought that, Florida was going to be a team on a mission again this year, heating up at the end, but needless to say, yeah, Michigan national champions, and they got there from absolutely beating the brakes off of Arizona. I think the lead was
Yeah.
as large as 30 points at one point, and I'm just sitting here watching the game like I can't believe that Arizona's just this outmatched. And that was like the story of Michigan this whole tournament. And I know that the first few games were against a 16 seed and a nine, but I saw a stat. It was their last four games they played, which would have been Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona, and UConn. They were all held to their lowest field goal percentage of the season when they played Michigan. So that's just a testament to the defense that the Wolverines had and showed. And, when you pair that defense with a top 10 offense, which they have, that was something that I was really falling in love with when I was making my predictions. You can, get these more one-sided scores. So came up again. UConn shot only 31% in the national championship game after having a pretty solid game against Illinois. I don't think that I really had any doubts that UConn was going to win that game, but Illinois did keep it close, and then UConn eventually, sealed the deal to get there. But I know there was some people. I know a UConn fan, and I've heard it even from the national media that they thought that the refs allowed Michigan to be a little bit more physical than they did UConn, but everybody's agreeing at the end of the day, if you shoot 31%, you're not going to give yourself that many opportunities to win. And I guess small credit to UConn here. I thought there was maybe three instances in the game where I thought Michigan was going to, put the foot on the gas and increase the lead to 20 and it was just going to be over. But UConn, I don't think really let it get any more out of hand than maybe 9, 10, or 11 points. And they were right there at the end. They had possession with, I think, 30 seconds left, down four, but they, missed the shot and Michigan ends up, getting the victory. But that's a little bit of a summary of how both teams fared this weekend. I'll turn it over to you, Ben, if you had any interesting stats that you saw or
Uh,
anything that shocked you about the final four games or the
well,
national championship game itself.
yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously being a High State fan, it always sucks to see Michigan win anything. But now, I mean, there's two folds. I'm gonna have to hear Michigan fans for the next freaking year tell me how much they're better than everything else than Ohio State, whatever. But hey, at least they have something now that they can actually, hold on to. That's a championship that they didn't cheat for. So, I'll give them that. I'll let them have a non-cheatish title. Okay, so you can have that, Michigan fans. We're still going to beat you by 30 next year in football, so that's fine. You can just have this until then. Because let's be honest, Ohio State's never cared about basketball. They have. It's been very rare. But anyways, back to the game. No, I think it didn't really shock me. I mean, honestly, this is gonna sound really weird, but I had some friends tell me this too. Like, it was just the most like unwatchable Final Four that I think we've had in a while. I don't know if there just wasn't as much excitement, I think, with the Final Four this year in the national championship. Maybe it was just me, and maybe because I'm in Europe, and so that skews it a little bit. Um, but for me, I just think it's impressive to see what Michigan can do defensively. Um, they find ways to limit your best player, to kind of dominate in every phase of the game. Um, and for me, I just thought it was just an overall impressive game. And again, this just shows that defense in a way can still win championships. I know there's a lot of people who say you can keep scoring more points, but I still believe that at the end of the day, there's the best defensive teams are going to most likely either compete or at least win a championship. And then the final thing I would say is that can the SEC stop talking now? Can they just can they take a break on this whole SEC is better than everyone else type phrase? Because I do believe, Josh, let's see, that's one, two, three in a row in football. They've won national titles, Big Ten, I'm speaking of. And I believe in basketball, you have UCLA, oh, Big Ten, and you have Michigan, Big Ten, correct? So I don't know. For me, they have this old phrase in the SEC, it means more. Obviously, it doesn't because the Big Ten literally had a chance to have two teams in the national title game. And I don't believe that the SEC had any in the Final Four. So for me, I kind of, that's one thing I want to hone in on because you know how it is, Josh. You obviously you're a Florida fan in football, but you see it as someone who lives in Ohio. The amount of crap the SEC fans love to share, and I don't think you're one of them, but you have to understand though, like I think there are a lot of people now that are starting to question, like, okay, SEC, can we just like pipe it down a bit?
Yeah, being the big Big Ten fan that you are, Ben, I expect you to really embrace this Michigan victory and just show that it does mean more in the Big Ten than in the
It does.
SEC.
It does.
Uh, yeah, I think that I did see though that at least in men's basketball, this is the first national championship for the Big Ten since 2000, which would that have
Mm-hmm.
been Tom Izzo and that Michigan State
Mm-hmm.
team,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So it has been a while, at least in the men's basketball side. But in this current moment in time, yes, the Big Ten is running the show right now, and the SEC continues to get more teams participating in these tournaments, like the college football playoff and like the men's basketball tournament the last 2 years. And credit to Florida for actually winning it last year. But they do seem to have a lot of participants and a lot of teams that underperform and have shortcomings in the
They love to
the
claim
big
baseball.
tournaments.
They love to claim baseballs. I'm like, you can have it. You play like 40 more games than every other team. You play like 40 more games than every other team in northern of the Mississippi. Like
Well, after
literally.
you add Texas and Oklahoma too, it's
Yeah.
just
You add
man.
40,
And
you
you already
have,
have Tennessee and you have
yeah.
Florida and
Well,
LSU.
I think with for me in baseball, it's like you play 30 games before like Ohio State plays 10 games. You're playing like by the end of the year, you're playing 60 games, whereas most of the teams up north are playing a total of 35, maybe. Like I just that's the whole argument. I was hurt. Someone told me today at
The college baseball
Texas
season, yeah, I
Guys.
mean, even when we were in school, Ben, Cedarville was always starting the season around spring break, and they'd go to that tournament in Florida because it was, in some cases, still
Yeah,
snow up here. And then they
exactly.
would come back after spring break, and it still would be like 30 degrees sometimes. It's like, man, nightmare trying to play baseball in those conditions. But
Yeah.
uh, leaning in on Michigan specifically now, they've been a program that I think for you could say the last 10, 15 years has been finding some success in the basketball court. They did have that national championship appearance against Louisville, where I think it was Trey Burke and
Yeah.
Spike Albrecht and those guys. And then they had that national championship appearance in 2018, where Villanova just beat the brakes off of them. I think that was Hunter Dickinson, Michigan,
I think
maybe, or
so.
maybe that was a little sooner. Mo Wagner and those guys. And then it sprinkled in there was like Derek Walton Jr. and DJ Wilson, and they had players like that that were solid. And Coach John Beeline, who we're all familiar with in Cleveland because of how much the train
Terrible.
fell
How
off the tracks
horrendous
with
he
him.
was.
But Beeline built them up into a nice competitive program that Joanne Howard tried to effectively kill because they went 18 and 16, I think 8 and 24 the last 2 years before they fired him and hired Dusty May, who made Florida Atlantic a Final Four squad
Yeah.
recently, and in his first year goes I think 27 and 10, makes a Sweet 16. Year two comes in, wins the national championship, goes I think the final record for them was 37 and 3. And I know everybody's pointing to the money that this Michigan basketball team spent on NIL, like $2 million here, $2.5 million there. But when you look at the players on the team, Ben, you got like Mara from UCLA was really struggling over there. They had another guy come in that was averaging 5 points off the bench from another team. And I can tell you from North Carolina's perspective, we weren't too upset that Elliot Cadeau took off, but I mean that was one of the toughest guys, and I think ended up being the most outstanding player of the Final
Yeah.
Four. Like they just Dusty May figured out how to get some of these guys together. Also, similarly to how Cignetti was doing with Indiana, they had some older guys. I know everybody's been pointing to the guys that are 23 and 25, but I mean that's kind of the era of
Well,
basketball that we're in right now.
it's the idea of like that's why small. I think guys that have spent most of their career coaching in the smaller D1 schools have more success in D1 because I think they know how to use what you got or to use what is available to you. I think they find ways to coach that and to win with that. And I think that's the thing you're seeing here with Dusty May. I think he finds his way. I mean, heck, Ohio State wanted him. I mean, they claim they didn't, but they did. They wanted him to go to Ohio State as well. And so you can see why, because he can take what he has and then add some pieces that maybe other people weren't looking at, which is a lot what smaller D1 schools do, right? They take the chance on the D2 guy that's coming up from D2 that maybe averaged 25 a game and he joins their team. Or maybe there's a guy who was on like let's say a Kansas averaging like 1.3 points per game, and he goes down to mid-major, right, to get more. And like these mid-major coaches, they find a way to do some successful things. And I think a big instance of that. I know I'm getting off the track here a little bit, but I posted it yesterday, and we talked about it, or I talked about it a little bit with my brother. But Easton Bozzoli, who graduated with you and I graduated with you, I believe, or he might have been a year older
My
than you.
class, yeah,
Yeah, it was your
I
class.
graduated a year early with
And
him. Yep.
this guy, being a guy who was an assistant coach most of his coaching career, his young coaching career, he's 30 years old, 31 years old, I think. Might be 30. I think he was 30. He just won a national championship with Division II Gannon, who had never won a national title before. And it's the same kind of thing. If you look at his roster, he doesn't have like big dudes, big name guys. He has Colt Linkus, another guy that we went to school with, his
Mm.
younger brother on that team. But I just wanted to also give Easton Bozzoli some props because that man was like a big brother to me a lot of times when I was with the basketball program. And to see him come from where he was and then now to see like how he's become an amazing person and an amazing coach, hats off to him and Gannon, by the way. That's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Finishing it off on the Dusty May thought, yeah, there's coaches that at the mid-major level have to be good at scouting talent because they just don't have the resources or necessarily the brand or the facilities to get the top 100 players. So they got to find the guys that
Yeah.
maybe are the diamonds in the rough. And then when you put a guy like that at a place like Michigan that has a big brand, that has no history with like the Fab
Easier to
Five
coach.
and yeah, it's like, okay, now I got my, my eye for talent and I got all these resources now, and it just, the right guy is going to find success there. I'm going to segue this into the North Carolina head coaching job, but I know that Dusty May was in the discussion for that job, and so was Arizona's coach, and they both reiterated that they're committed to the programs that they're at. I think Arizona's coach actually got an extension, and we'll see if Dusty May gets a fat extension, because while I said Michigan is they got history and they've had, success in men's basketball at times throughout history. I wonder how committed they're going to be to Dusty May, or if Dusty, might be eyeing maybe getting to one of these other bigger programs eventually, like maybe when Bill Self finally retires, if he goes to a place like Kansas, or if Villanova continues to struggle, if they'll go and, try to throw a bag at him, something like that. But yeah, Dusty May, Michigan's got a good one over there. But yeah, speaking of head coaches, Mike Malone was announced over the weekend as the guy that North Carolina intended to sign, and I think it was made official today by the North Carolina Athletic Department. And all the guys that they were discussing, they were trying to find guys that had like North Carolina ties, and I know Stephen A. Smith threw out Kenny Smith's name, and maybe even Jay Wright, getting him out of retirement. North Carolina really likes guys that are like North Carolina guys that came up in the program, like Hubert
I
Davis
believe as a
was.
kid, right? Malone has a kid at North Carolina right now, I believe.
She is on the volleyball team, and when you
Yeah.
run through Mike Malone's coaching history, you're like, where is the connection? Because he's always been kind of on the East Coast in the New England area for everything, and then
It's like a
got to the
pro
NBA.
pro coaching purgatory is what North Carolina is becoming.
Well, Hubert Davis was a player and an assistant at North Carolina. Roy Williams was an assistant when Michael Jordan played there, and then was the head coach at Kansas before getting the job. And Dean Smith, of course, is one of the greatest coaches ever, was at North Carolina. But yeah, I'm assuming you're referring to Bill Belichick, someone
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
had
saying. Like I just feel like it's now
major
becoming the
success in the NFL side. Yeah, so Mike Malone, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the statement that North Carolina released from Mike just on what made the job attractive to him. He says, Carolina is one of the most historic programs in college basketball, and I'm honored to be the head coach of the Tar Heels. It is humbling to follow so many legends in Chapel Hill. I know from the many Tar Heels in the NBA how special the Carolina basketball family is, and I will do everything I can to continue UNC's championship legacy while preparing our players for professional careers and life after basketball. I offer my thanks to Chancellor Roberts, Stephen Bubba, the Board of Trustees, and the search committee. I'm proud to be a Tar Heel and can't wait to get started. Obviously, everybody knows Mike Malone for his success in the NBA. He's won a national, an NBA Finals with the Denver Nuggets. He's coached guys like, Nikola Jokic. So he's found ways to win with those big guys. But as we're finding out with Bill Belichick, there's a difference between coaching, professionals, men, and coaching college kids. Uh, can you recruit? What can you do with the portal? Can you find a way to relate with younger players and be cool that way? We'll surely find out here shortly. But when I heard that news that Mike Malone was the guy they were going through, again, it was just like I looked him up and was like, maybe he was like an assistant or maybe he played there, years ago. And the only connection anyone could really find was his daughter playing volleyball there. And I doubt that's the main thing that drew him over there. It's like he said here, it's one of the most historic college basketball programs. But as far as what drew North Carolina to Mike Malone, I'm not entirely
I'm guessing because everyone
sure.
else said no.
It could be because everyone else said no too, kind of like how Penn State was with their search for a head coach before finally landing Matt Campbell, which was, a big home run there. And Mike Malone, like I said, certainly success at the NBA level. We'll see if that translates to college, but
Hmm.
that was my initial reaction was just surprised, and I guess I'll wait and see. I know everybody was really excited when Hubert Davis was tabbed next coach because of his history with the program, and that was Roy Williams' guy. Like he said, this is going to be the guy that's going to continue to right the ship, and it just ended up being a lot of shortcomings and a lot of excuses at the end of the day. So we're already looking for our second coach post Roy Williams, and we'll see if Mike Malone ends up being that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard part is that I think there's going to be some North Carolina fans, I think just some sport fan in general that look at this and go, "Oh no, it's Bill Belichick 2.0." I think there will be that fear of like, "Oh, why are we keep doing this to ourselves?" I mean, the only perk you can say about having a former NBA coach is that okay, a lot of the NBA players are younger, they are from age, 18, 19 to age 23, 24 is a chunk of them. So he knows how to work with younger people, but again, it's just different. So I'll be interested to see kind of how that all unfolds.
hmm That was pretty much everything I had for the college basketball discussion.
Yep.
I guess I'll go ahead and conclude it with some comments on Dan Hurley. We were discussing last week. If he wins this, like that's three natties in 4 years. I mean, it's
Hmm.
still, he made three natties at least in 4 years. Uh, if he can get one more, that would put him, tied for the fourth most all time. We figured out that only John Wooden, Mike Krzyzewski, and Adolph Rupp have won more than three. And if he does get a third, that puts him in the elite company with Jim Calhoun, another UConn coach, puts him in there with Bob Knight and Roy Williams. And it's like, man, this guy, is at the top of the sport right now. But
Yeah.
with the way that player movement is now and, NIL in the portal, it's been impressive that UConn has been at the top, of the
Yeah.
sport here, like making, that many national championships. And, uh, I don't know. I don't think UConn is done. I think that Dusty May and Michigan are definitely here to stay and compete, but I don't think this is, by any means of, an end of an era for UConn either. I think that they're going to be here. I think Dan Hurley is going to win one more championship. I couldn't tell
I
you.
think so too.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what year it will be if it'll be next year or the year after that, but obviously a guy that UConn's going to make sure sticks around. I think a guy that obviously loves UConn. That's why he turned down the Lakers job a couple years ago
Hmm.
and has stayed over here. I think he loves where he's at, and I think they love him. And no, he's going to retire as one of the all-time greats.
Oh, I agree. 100%. I don't, there's not much debate on that. Um, and yeah, I think it is hard to do. People don't realize how hard it is to win a national championship. And the fact that you've done that multiple times, pretty incredible in my book.
Yeah. I think finding out that Bob Knight only won three
Yeah.
like really opened my eyes because I was like, this is a guy that, I spent some time in Indiana. This is a guy that's a legend over there in that state. It's a
Hmm.
guy that's a legend, in the sport in general. And
Hmm.
when you find out that he won three national championships, it's like, man, you get into a tournament of 60 plus teams, anything can happen. Like it's very hard to
Yeah.
do so. Even in the football space, Ben or Urban Meyer won what, two national championships or three national
Three.
championships, two with Florida, one with Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's a guy that's being looked at as one of the all-time greats. It's like you got your unicorns like Nick Saban, but to be an all-time great, like if you can win three national championships in any sport, it's like, man, that puts you in some elite company. It's very,
Yeah.
very hard, and I think that's something that fans often forget when they're getting frustrated when their team is, consistently, winning, making Sweet 16 runs like Tom Izzo does
Yeah.
with Michigan State. It's like, man, where are the titles at? It's like it's very hard to win a title.
Yeah. I couldn't say better myself, to be honest with you.
With that, though, we'll go ahead and switch gears over to the baseball diamond, where I know that our teams, in Ohio are having,
Good
still some
years.
some continued success. I know that the Reds are 7-3 and in second in a very competitive AL Central, and right now the Cleveland baseball team is at the top of the AL Central at 7-5.
Hmm.
And I was telling you before the show, it seems like the formula to win is score more than one run, and we're going to be okay. It's something that I hate, obviously, because it's like we're not going to compete with any of the, your Yankees or any of your Mariners if we're, scoring, that low. But at least this early in the season, you look at the Dodgers record, and it's like, we handed them two of those losses, and uh, uh, Juan Brito made his debut today. That could, make things potentially clogged in the middle of the infield. But he went 2 for 4 against the Royals. We had a solid series uh, against the Cubs and are starting off at least nice with Royals. We've split that one 1-1 so far, but uh, pitching has continued to look good for Cleveland. I'll go ahead and tell you some of the starts that we've seen from some of these younger guys. I was talking about Parker Messick a week ago with our rookies that we've had, and Messick in his second start against the Cubs went 5 innings of 1 run off 2 hits, 6 strikeouts. He has a .82 ERA and 11 strikeouts in his two starts. Gavin Williams dealt again today. Let's see, against the Mariners that opening week, he had 3 earned runs off of 5 innings and a loss, but then came back and threw 7 shutout and 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers. Absolute gem over there. And then again today with the Royals, I'll go ahead and read you that final stat line. Although he didn't get the win, still had a really solid start. It was 5 2/3, 1 run on 1 hit, 8 strikeouts. Did have 5 walks. The pitch count got up to over 100, and that's why he had to come out early. But yeah, Cleveland just got to find some consistency with the bats, man. We're still seeing Jose Ramirez bat 133, which you don't expect to be a continued trend, but you run through the order and it's like, okay, Stephen Kwan hitting under 250, Jose, hitting 133, not great. Chase DeLauder's still smacking. He hit another home run recently, leading Cleveland basically all the batting metrics. Still has an OPS over 1,000. And like I said, Brito had a really nice debut at second base today, so we'll see if that continues. But some of these guys just got to get out of these slumps. I know Manzardo's been struggling. Also, he's not even batting 100, and CJ Kayfis isn't even hitting 200, and still waiting for some of these guys to come around. But like I said, Cleveland has been surprising me so far. There's been some surprising players. There's been some things that haven't surprised me so much, and there's still potential for things to get better as the year goes on.
Yeah, the Guardians have been impressive, but also I wanted to really take a chance to say that I think the Reds and the Guardians are playing like the same game. I think they're just the way they're playing. It's like I don't know how to put it. Basically, like I think they're playing this game of like, how can we score the least amount of runs possible,
And still win.
uh, and still win? So it's going to be interesting as I. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up my stats here. There we go. And so as I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the team stats, right, for the Reds, and they're in the bottom, five of every offensive category. They're just not hitting well at all. I think the Reds have yeah, they're hitting 210, um, striking out a lot, just struggling with runners in scoring position. A lot of these things that again, it's like one of the beat reporters for the Reds said, they're not going to pitch this great and they're not going to hit this bad all year. And so like the pitching has been phenomenal. Again, another shutout. They had the hitting has been clutch when it needs to. I would like to see more out of Ellie and some of these other guys, but yeah, uh, couldn't ask for anything else. Like nothing different because just the way everything is folded out so far. Again, I love the pitching. Pitching's been phenomenal, and that's without their top two starters in Lodolo and Hunter Green. So very impressive.
I was gonna say, man, it's like, especially with the run prevention side, we were wondering what this rotation would look like once Hunter Green came out. If they could just, right the ship and weather the storm until your ace comes back. But a big
Mhm.
reason for why they've been able to do that is, your young guy, Chase Burns. That's the guy that leads the team in
Oh, dude,
strikeouts and ERA right
nasty,
now. Looking like,
nasty.
a potential, solid number two starter if the Reds make a playoffs. Like you start off with Hunter Green and Chase Burns as your 1-2 punch. My goodness. And then it's
Oh, I
like
know.
Andrew Abbott as your third starter. Wow, now we're really cooking with gas.
Yeah, and then you even have on top of that, you have a bullpen who's been great. Not, I mean, not great, but good. You have Tony Santion, who seems to never get fatigued or hurt. I mean, the dude pitched 70 plus games last year. Might have been closer to 80. Um, so again, impressive. These things are impressive. I also love um, Sal Stewart is still raking. We talked about him last week, but he's still raking. He's still hitting over 350 on base percentages near 500. Um, yeah, I mean, he's been phenomenal. Probably the only red outside of Ellie a little bit that has been putting the team kind of on their back offensively.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let everyone know just how bad some of this offensive production has been for both our squads. So,
Hmm.
reminder, there are 30 MLB teams. So that's where all these rankings are out of 30. So you get to batting average. The Reds are 24th, batting 210. The Tribe, 29th, batting 193. Then you go over to OPS, which is on base plus slugging percentage added up. You go to Cleveland, sitting at 26th at 627, not good. And then the Reds are 28th at 624,
Jeez.
not good. Uh, You want to know, okay, well maybe they're not hitting the ball, but are they mashing? Are they
Hmm.
really taking advantage when they do get runners on base? Are they scoring any runs? And the answer is also no, because Cleveland is 28th in runs scored at 34, and the Reds are dead last at
Hmm.
28. And if you want to know, okay, well, are they at least scoring more runs than what they're allowing? Cleveland is not. They have a -5 run differential, although they're first. And the Reds have a -2 run differential, and they sit second in their division. Just for comparison, the Brewers, who are first, are +30. Uh, Funny enough, in the American League Central, the only team that has a positive run differential is the Tigers, and they sit in last for the division. So
It shows you, man. Sometimes it's just the game of chance, basically in baseball. Really, what it is.
it really fits the culture of the AL Central in general because there's a lot of teams that play similar baseball style to what Cleveland does. I mean, that's the Royals, that's the Twins, that's the White Sox pretty much, and the Tigers, who I thought would easily win this division. I think they'll eventually figure some things out and do better than 4-6 where they're at right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, that gives you an idea of how bad the bats really have been here in Ohio. But
Hmm.
then you scroll over to like, okay, well, in order to be winning this
Hmm.
many games while hitting this bad, they must be crushing it in pitching. And at least the pitching staffs, yes. Reds are fifth in ERA right now at 293. Cleveland is 10th at 353. For ERA, you go over to strikeouts, and Cleveland has struck out the third most batters this year, 113. The Reds are at 11th with 94 strikeouts.
Respectable.
Yeah, yeah, solid and respectable for sure. You go over to WHIP, and they're at 10th and 11th right there. Cincinnati is 117 at 10th, and Cleveland is 119 at 11th. So it's been some very solid, respectable pitching. We've had a handful of individual solid, dominant performances, like the Chase Burns, like the Gavin Williams, but they're doing enough right now. It's obviously not a sustainable model, but like you said, I don't think the Reds are going to continue to hit this bad.
Hmm.
Cleveland's bats,
Hmm.
most of them concern me, but then there's a few where it's like I think Kwan's going to come around. I think Jose Ramirez is going to come around, and then you just hope that Chase DeLauter, continues his production, that some guys like Kyle Manzardo can come around and figure some things out. So that's how baseball's been going, at least in our state. And I just had
Yep.
to mention this after I talked about how dominating the Blue Jays were on opening weekend. They now sit at 4-6, negative 20 run differential. And it's been mostly injuries, Ben, with them. They have a solid starting five basically on the injured list right now, with Shane Bieber being there and Trey Savage and Cody Ponce, who was looking to be another solid guy, and Jose Barrios and uh, Addison Barger from the Bats has been struggling
Hmm.
with some ankles, I think. But yeah, after they started off really nice to start the month off or the season off in March, who was it? It was the Rockies. So it wasn't anything like, was it the Rockies? I think it was, but they've just been struggling against some teams that we didn't think would be that great. And they did actually lose a couple to the Rockies, and they've lost some to the White Sox. Munetaka Murakami continued to look good, and then they got the Dodgers now. And everybody's talking about this being one of the most pulling your pants down moments, where it
Yeah.
wasn't enough that the Dodgers won 14-2. They took Miguel Rojas, who hit the walk-off home run in World Series Game 7 last year, or at least the go-ahead, and put him on the mound because they're just like, our pitchers are too good to be wasted on the Toronto Blue Jays bats. We're going to put a position player on the mound and make him face these guys. And yeah, the Blue Jays, it's like, given all the injuries and some of these guys are expecting to be back in May and June, you're in a competitive division. I don't know if it's time to hit the panic button yet, but if you're a Blue Jays fan, you got to be, at least sweating a little bit, I think.
No, I agree. The early season baseball is always interesting to me. But again, I just love it because it's just the chaos of April brings you
hmm
some fun end of the year stuff as well.
I think the other fun thing that happened over the last week was the defensive performance from Joe Adell, right fielder for
Mhm.
the Angels. Rob's not one, not two, but three home
Mhm.
runs. It sparked a lot of different topics of discussion, at least on Twitter, Ben, and I'll share a
Mhm.
few of them that I thought were interesting. Some are discussing whether or not it should count as an out or a home run if an outfielder falls into the crowd. If his momentum carries there, should it still be a home run? Or since he fell over like that, it was over the fence, so it should be a home run. Some people have been talking about since his WAR and his defensive runs saved and stuff like that, what didn't
Mhm.
go up how you would have thought. Like, are those stats, even meaningful to discuss? And then just what's more, impressive, robbing three
Mhm.
home runs or hitting four home
That is
runs?
impressive. Yeah.
And I guess you would say robbing three home runs because, like, what are the odds that you even get three balls hit
That is
towards you
true.
right there and then you do it? But I think personally, I'd rather hit four home runs, although robbing three is probably more important to your team winning a game.
Depends on how you rob them. Like, how cool do you look? Because if you don't look
Yeah,
really cool robbing it, then I feel like it's not as fun.
yeah, yeah. Very, very true there. If it's just like, you reach your hand over and you don't even have to jump because you're Aaron Judge and you're very tall, like that's not very cool. But the one where he had to run over that third one that people have been discussing, where he runs over
Hmm.
and then falls over the fence and stands up in the crowd with his glove up, and then that photo,
Yeah,
surfaces around social media. That's pretty cool. Like that.
that is dope. Yeah.
That's a very cool moment. And JP Crawford, who hit that one, is just sitting there in the batter's box, like, you got to be kidding me, man. And that
I
was a game. Of
know.
course, the Angels won 1-0. So, if you don't have Joe Adell out in right field, that might be looking like a totally different final result.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I think today we were going to end things with one of the weirder signings we've seen this offseason, and that, of course, would be Kirk Cousins going to the Raiders. Weird because once again, Kirk Cousins' agent seems to cook up, a contract that he has no business signing, making money in amounts that just make you scratch your head and think why. But also because the
Hmm.
Raiders have the number one pick, and it's been like consensus amongst everybody that they're going to take Fernando Mendoza first overall. So knowing how the Raiders front office and ownership can be sometimes, are they not sold on Mendoza and they're going to just roll with Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback until they get who they really want? Or are they trying to manufacture a competition here? Or
Hmm.
do they still want to take Fernando, but just don't think he's necessarily ready to start? Most of the time a number one pick is going to start week one, you'd imagine, but yeah, it was just one of those head scratchers. And what was your initial reaction to finding out that Kirk Cousins is a Las Vegas Raider,
Um,
Ben?
I think it makes sense. It fits. They did this with Garoppolo, a few other guys. I want to give them credit, and I want to say that. Um, how do I put it? Yeah, how do I put it?
Like you
Yeah, I don't
said, though,
know.
they have brought veterans in the building like
Yeah,
Garoppolo and Geno Smith, but that
I
was
think it's
because
just
they didn't have like a rookie
yeah.
or first round quarterback in the building.
I think that if they are sold, I don't know if it's like the narrative is so much that they have to take them that they now have to, or it's because they just want an insurance policy in case something happens, right? I don't think they want another McCarthy issue. So for me, I think it's interesting. I'd say wait to do quarterback until you know next year when you have I don't know like 40 amazing quarterbacks, but we'll have to wait and see. But I mean I like it for Kirk. I mean again he's gonna once again like just make so much money, but also the fact that yeah, he's going to be making a. I just think about how much he's going to be making. He's going to make a lot of money. But I think it's going to be a good fit for the offense. It's going to give him a veteran leadership, give the offense a chance to develop. And then obviously you can start sprinkling in Mendoza.
Certainly would be interesting if they decide to pass on Mendoza first overall, and then you
That
wonder
screws all of
what.
our mock drafts up.
Well, yeah, it totally screws up all our mock drafts, but then you wonder who is it that would be first overall? Would it be Arvel Reese, who's been our number two pick for a while? Would they
Hmm.
just insert him? It's like you never take linebackers first overall. That'd be interesting. Uh, yeah, just figuring out the route that they go. And then if they pass on him, then where does Mendoza go? So
Hmm.
does he go to? Because the Jets are like, thank goodness we don't have to take a flyer on
Yeah.
Ty Simpson. We'll just go ahead and take him second overall. Thank you guys for screwing that up, Raiders. But yeah, we're gonna have my friend Joe on soon enough to discuss some of the
Yeah.
happenings in the NFL. I know that that certainly adds some drama to where the Raiders might go, but saw a thing about the Dolphins and how many players they have on veteran minimum contracts. It's like over
Hmm.
40, and the next highest is, I think, 31. So the direction that they're going to go could be a lot of different ways, but they really can't afford to really address anything in free agency since they're spending so much money on a team to not play for them,
Yeah,
basically,
agreed.
with everybody. So the direction that they go in the draft, I think, is going to be interesting too. But we'll have all those questions for Joe here in the future. But yeah, I think that is a show today, Ben. I know that
Yeah.
the Masters are happening this weekend, and some of my buddies that are into golf ask if the baseline ever really discusses golf for the Masters, and I just simply tell them we are not the show that you want to listen to for golf because you'd probably just be upset and
That is
frustrated
true.
of our terrible analysis
The
and
only thing I know
lack of
about
knowledge
golf.
of the sport and history of it.
Yeah.
We just kind of look at it when you have a winner like Rory last year, and we're like, what a cool story. A guy that's been, gunning for the Masters for so
Yeah.
long, finally gets it and becomes one of those guys with the Grand Slam. We obviously appreciate the tradition that the Masters, carries out. We love hearing about the menu and the concessions there, and the pimento cheese being like $1.50 or whatever the heck goes on over there. We certainly appreciate all that, but as far as coming in and being like, yeah, you know what, I just think this is the year that so and so finally gets it done.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
I
think
don't have anything on that. I
no,
guess the main thing is we won't see Tiger Woods. this time
Yes,
around.
that was the only thing I was going to say. Is the only thing I know is that Tiger Woods gets arrested like every time we talk about
Yeah,
any of this stuff.
I can
So
tell you that Tiger Woods will not win the
yes,
Masters, but I don't think I
but
can tell you who
also
will win.
I'll give a credit to my friend Henry. Henry, I work with him. He's a history teacher like me. We love history, but also he is from Georgia. Like he is not far from Augusta, Georgia. So he could tell you all about it. He wore his Masters shirt last week when we were at school. I mean, he's a big Masters fan. But the one thing I do always love talking about, I think I've brought this up multiple times on this show over the last couple of years as we've been doing this, which, by the way, people, we are getting close to 250 episodes. I just want to point out, just saying, it's pretty incredible. But
Hmm.
in those episodes, we have talked about these menus. And here's Roy McIlroy's menu. His appetizer choices: peach and ricotta flatbread. Interesting. Rock shrimp tempura with a creamy, spicy sauce. Bacon wrapped dates.
Hmm.
Okay.
Savory and
Grilled
sweet combo.
grilled elk sliders. Those sound pretty good, actually. His first course, a yellowfin tuna carpaccio. Interesting. His main course, a choice of wagyu filet mignon and seared salmon. So you can choose between the two. And then dessert is a sticky toffee pudding.
Hmm.
Interesting. Again, I would love to be there, but you have to get invites, and it's like really hard to get into the Masters to even watch it. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's going to be awesome. Every time I think of the spring, I think of the Masters. I remember growing up, my grandpa coached golf, and he was always a big golf fan. And sometimes we'd be at their house during this like Easter weekend time, right after Easter, and he'd have golf on. The amount of times I would go down, we'd be at some type of summer gathering and there'd be golf on. I don't know. It just I think for some people, I think you recognize events and that means a certain part of the year. And anytime I think of the Masters, I know, hey, we're in spring weather.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mm. What should the question be this week? I think there's a lot of good ways you could go with this.
Um,
What would
let's
be on your
see.
menu? What would be on your menu?
Yeah, we'll go with what would be on your menu. We'll let everyone pick one appetizer, one main course, and one
Mm.
dessert.
I mean, I would have pizza as my main course. That's for sure.
No,
100%.
Ben. See, this is why you don't get invited to the Masters because you just come out here and get something that one you can pronounce the word pizza, and two you can eat
It's
pizza
pizza.
any other time.
It's
This is your
pizza.
time to get peach and ricotta flatbreads and
That's
seared
disgusting.
salmons and filet mignons and whatever sticky toffee pudding for dessert that you mentioned. Like this is all
Hey,
stuff that's like I've never heard of. I never knew this existed. This is,
pizza.
what I want to
It's
be
like
eating. I want to
specialty
be taking
pizza.
advantage. It
Specialty
better be the
pizza.
best pizza I've ever tasted.
Hey, you know what? You can't. Is either that or I was thinking about just can you imagine like one of these golfers and they just go like, I just want Chipotle. Like you do, like you just, I want it catered. I don't even want it you to make it. I want it to catered from the
I feel
restaurant.
like that's something that Happy Gilmore would do.
Oh, for sure. Or like, I feel like it's like one of these, it's gonna be like one of these like up and coming golfers. It's like, younger than us. It's gonna be like, listen, bro, I just love myself some Chipotle. I just want to eat some Chipotle. That's what
He
I
just
want.
wants some Chipotle, or he like flies In-N-Out Burger from California, and
Would they even allow it in Augusta, Georgia? I feel like they would just be like, "No, you're from California."
you can't
Sorry,
compete in
I'm
the
so sorry.
Masters. You're from
That was
California.
yeah, that was a political joke. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode. It was fun to kind of talk about the basketball and kind of give both of our sides on how we're viewing it. But like we said, the draft is coming up here very shortly. Our final mock draft will be coming out shortly, and as he said, we have a guest coming back onto the show who you guys all know and well if you know draft and everything in between. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be very exciting. And then obviously after the draft, we're going to get into more of the kind of playoffs for basketball for the NBA and also talking more about baseball. Baseball will finally have a good idea of what's happening in baseball world. Again, you really don't know what an idea with baseball until like the beginning of May is when you can start seeing the patterns of who's going to be good and who's going to be not so great. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be exciting, and then obviously we will have a full steam ahead as we keep going. So once again, I just want to say thank you for watching and listening. If you love doing this, watching this on YouTube, click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or wherever you can find a podcast, yeah, thank you. Share it with your friends and family. And again, leave down the comments of anything we post. What would be your app? What would be your menu for the Masters? It's a very curious one. I'd love to hear Dave Bowden's. That would be an interesting one. My dad's would be a very interesting one. But anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing week, an amazing weekend, and until next time, we'll see ya.